I wasn't the golden child. I wasn't even the problem child. I was the shadow. The one who got used to disappearing so no one could blame me. But shadows have long memories. And when you spend your life unseen, you learn exactly where to strike. I didn't raise my voice. I just erased him. My name's Ryan. I'm 32 years old, and if there's one thing life slammed into my chest like a wrecking ball, it's that betrayal from your own blood cuts the deepest. 6 years ago, I thought I had it all neatly lined up. A good job in IT security? Check. A condo down payment saved up? Check. And the woman I loved? Her name was Elise. She wasn't the kind of person who demanded a room's attention. No, she carried this quiet steadiness, like no matter what storm hit, she'd still be there beside me. I had the ring. I had my speech memorized. I even had the perfect dinner reservation. Then my brother Drew, the family's golden boy, swooped in like a vulture wearing a slim-fit shirt and that smug little grin he always flashed when he spotted something he wanted. I can't tell you the exact moment it happened. All I know is 1 week before I was supposed to propose, Elise sat me down at our favorite coffee shop. The place was nearly empty, quiet except for the sound of the espresso machine hissing in the background. She fidgeted with her cup, eyes not meeting mine, and whispered she was confused. And then came the name. My brother. Drew. The words landed like a punch straight to the gut. My older brother, the star of the family, the one who soaked up all the air in every room and then wondered why nobody else could breathe. Drew, who had always been louder, shinier, the pride of our parents while I got the, well, at least you tried, pat on the shoulder. I'd seen him take things that weren't his before. I just never thought Elise would be one of them. 3 months later, they moved in together. I shut it all off after that. No answering Drew's texts. No responding to Elisa's awkward emails about talking sometime. I skipped their engagement party too, even though Mom tried her best guilt trip. Family is family, Ryan, she said. But what I heard was, your pain doesn't matter as much as keeping up appearances. So, I buried myself in work. Built invisible walls around my life. No scrolling through feeds, no messy emotions. Just quiet. Controlled. Safe. And then last week, Dad died. It wasn't unexpected, lung cancer had been eating away at him for months, but that phone call, it still felt like a train slamming through me. I hadn't seen him in almost a year, but I still sat alone in my apartment and cried. Meanwhile, Drew was busy flooding social media with pictures of Dad in the hospital and long, heartfelt captions about honoring every moment. I wanted to scream. He hadn't even shown up for Christmas. But the second he learned about Dad's life insurance, suddenly, he was the devoted son again. The funeral was held on a gray, heavy-skied Saturday. The kind of day where even the wind felt like it was holding its breath. I arrived early, sat in the back pew, kept my head down. I didn't want conversation. I just wanted to say goodbye. But of course, Drew had to make an entrance. 20 minutes late. Hand in hand with Elise. She was wearing black, not the quiet, respectful kind, the sleek, figure-hugging kind that screamed confidence. Drew walked in like it was some red carpet, not our father's funeral. His eyes scanned the room and locked on mine. That smirk slid onto his face, the one I'd seen 1,000 times growing up. As he passed, he leaned in just enough for others to hear and whispered, "Some guys just finish first." I didn't give him the satisfaction. I just smiled, leaned back, and said casually, "Still stuck at that office job?" That smirk twitched. Just a hair. But oh, it was enough. Then the sound of a limo pulling up outside cut through the room. Everyone turned. The door opened. And there she was. Sabrina. The woman who changed everything. She stepped out like a scene hitting its crescendo, navy coat tailored to perfection, sunglasses, heels clicking like punctuation marks on a sentence I didn't have to finish. She didn't walk like she belonged, she walked like she owned the moment. Drew's puffed up chest deflated like a balloon with a pinhole. Elisa's hand slipped a little from his. I swear, his jaw literally dropped. When Sabrina reached me, she slid her arm through mine and kissed my cheek. Just like that, the air shifted. The energy in the room didn't just change, it bowed to her. I caught Drew mouthing to Elise, barely audible, "Is that Sabrina Ditt?" Yep. The same Sabrina Ditt who once graced the cover of Forbes 30 Under 30. The tech visionary who built a company from scratch, who spoke at global conferences, whose name turned boardrooms quiet. And unlike Elise, she didn't need me to be louder or flashier. She loved me exactly as I was. We didn't say anything. Just turned to face the altar, hand in hand. But I could feel Drew's stare drilling into the back of my head through the entire service. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger. The real shift came later, at the wake. The reception was held at our old family estate. The moment I stepped inside, I caught the faint scent of burnt toast. It always smelled that way, mixed with the thick weight of memory. The house was crowded, a blur of black outfits and low murmurs. Drew was in his element, laughing too loud, shaking hands, telling stories about Dad like he'd been there through every hard moment. And Elise? She stayed at his side like a shadow, except her eyes kept drifting toward Sabrina and me. And that's when the game really started to change. At one point during the wake, I slipped away from the noise and found myself in the kitchen, just needing a glass of water and a moment to breathe. Mom was there, standing by the stove, slowly stirring a pot like she was in some old black and white film. She didn't even look up when she said, "I saw who you brought." I waited. She sighed, long and theatrical, the kind of sigh that always meant I was about to get scolded for something I didn't even do. "Ryan, this isn't a competition. It's your father's funeral." I kept my voice level. "I didn't make it a competition, Mom. Drew did. 6 years ago." That got her attention. She turned around, spoon still in her hand, eyes sharp enough to slice through glass. You're still bitter about Elise? Ryan, you were barely dating a year. And Drew loved her. I let out a short laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was either laugh or break something. I was going to propose. You knew that. She waved the spoon through the air like she was swatting away a fly. You weren't ready. You never were. Always so cautious. So quiet. Drew goes after what he wants. Maybe you should have done the same. And just like that, I wasn't standing in that kitchen anymore. I was 12 again, sitting at the dinner table while Drew got a standing ovation for making the soccer team, and I got a lecture for an almost A in math. I was 17, watching him get the car keys while I got a lecture about being more responsible. I was 25, hearing her say Elise was more Drew's type anyway, after she'd already chosen him. But I wasn't that kid anymore. I was 32. And I was done. Thanks for the advice, I said quietly and walked out, leaving her with her pot and her nostalgia. Later, as the sky bruised into evening and the crowd started thinning, I stepped out onto the back porch. The air was cool, carrying that crisp smell of damp wood and autumn. Drew cornered me there, sleeves rolled up, a glass of something dark in his hand, probably the same scotch Dad used to nurse after long nights. He leaned against the railing, saying nothing at first. Just smirking. So, you really married her? I sipped my water. Yeah. He scoffed, shaking his head. Crazy world. You always were lucky. I turned toward him, locking eyes. No. You always thought charm and shortcuts were the same as hard work. That's not luck. For once, he didn't have a snappy comeback ready. Then came the bitterness. Come on, Ryan. Sabrina did? Really? I shrugged. She saw something in me, I guess. He muttered under his breath, yeah. Something with a lot of zeros in her bank account. And that's when it hit me like a punch to the ribs. He wasn't surprised I was with Sabrina because he didn't think I could be. He was pissed because she was someone he couldn't have. And standing there, watching his expression twist, Elise suddenly didn't look like a grand prize anymore. She looked like what was left. Before he could say anything else, Mom's voice echoed from inside. Drew, the lawyer's here. He straightened instantly, like a kid caught sneaking out after curfew. The will. Inside, people were gathering in the sitting room. That same house, the one that had seen every uneven chapter of our family history, felt charged, like static before a storm. As I walked through the hallway, I caught a glimpse of Elise leaning close to Mom, whispering something. They both looked at me. Then Mom cleared her throat. Ryan, can I have a word? I followed her into the hall, closing the door behind us. Elise is worried that Sabrina might cause distractions. She's very high profile, you know. I stared at her. You want her to leave? Just for the reading. It's family, Ryan. I almost laughed. But this time there wasn't an ounce of humor left in me. You know, I said slowly, I used to think maybe you just didn't understand how much your favoritism messed with me. But now I see, you chose not to see it. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. My voice was calm, steady. You and Drew can have your little alliance. But Sabrina is my wife. She stays. I walked away before she could respond. In the main room, the lawyer, an older man in a navy blazer, was setting down a worn briefcase. Drew was already sitting in the front row, Elise practically glued to his side, that smug grin creeping across his face again like he owned the moment. He had no idea what was about to hit him. The lawyer cleared his throat, his voice smooth and practiced. I'd like to begin by thanking everyone for being here today. Mr. Harold Whitmore's final wishes were very clearly outlined in this document, which he updated 1 full year ago. At that, Drew stiffened. Just slightly. His fingers froze on the rim of his glass. The lawyer opened a smaller sheet of paper, Dad's personal message. It wasn't sentimental. Dad never was. His voice came through those words exactly the way I remembered him, blunt, unpolished, honest. To my family, if you are hearing this, then I am gone. I have no illusions that I was perfect. I know I left many things unsaid. But I want my last actions to speak clearly. I've spent the last year watching more carefully than most of you know. I've seen who showed up and who didn't. Who gave without expectations, and who took with both hands. What I built will not go to waste. Not again. A few people shifted in their seats. Mom pressed her lips together tightly. Drew let out a tiny, confident smirk, like he was sure Dad was about to reward his golden boy act. I felt Sabrina's hand slide gently into mine. Warm, steady, grounding. Drew, though? He was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. The lawyer placed the letter down with steady hands, then lifted the actual will. His voice was calm, too calm, when he said, let's begin with the estate. Mr. Whitmore's residence, valued at approximately $2.1 million, will be transferred to. Drew leaned forward, already wearing that self-satisfied grin. Mr. Ryan Whitmore. You could have heard a fork hit the floor. I didn't move. Didn't blink. My face stayed neutral, but my heart? It skipped hard. Not out of joy, out of pure, stunned disbelief. Drew's head snapped toward me so fast I thought he might give himself whiplash. What? He blurted. The lawyer didn't even flinch. The primary residence, along with all its contents, belongs solely to Mr. Ryan Whitmore. Mom's voice shot through the room, sharp and shaky. That has to be a mistake. Harold promised Drew the house years ago. The lawyer nodded slightly. There was a previous version of the will, yes. But it was legally nullified and replaced. This version is final and notarized. Drew's chair scraped against the floor as he shot to his feet, glass toppling, liquid splashing across the rug. His face was flushed, jaw tight. This is ridiculous. Dad said. Please sit down, Mr. Whitmore, the lawyer interrupted with practiced calm. But Drew didn't sit. He turned his glare on me, eyes burning. Elise reached out to steady him, but he yanked his arm away. What did you do, Ryan? What did you say to him? Nothing, I said evenly. Maybe, he just saw things for what they were. But that wasn't the betrayal that truly broke the air in that room. The lawyer moved on, reading through the rest of the assets, stocks, accounts, trust funds, divided between me, several charities Dad supported quietly, and small gifts to extended family. And then came the part none of us saw coming. As for the remaining family business assets, he said, glancing down, including Whitmore Logistics and its 51% majority shares, these have been placed in a private family trust controlled by, he paused, Sabrina Whitmore. The room went absolutely still. Even I felt my stomach drop. Drew's eyes widened like someone had just ripped the floor out from under him. What? Her? Are you kidding me? She's not even. She is, I said quietly. My wife. The lawyer didn't look up. Mr. Harold Whitmore explicitly stated that he admired Mrs. Whitmore's business acumen and her vision for long-term sustainability. The trust ensures voting control over the company remains in her hands. Mr. Drew Whitmore retains no shares. That was the knife. But the twist came from someone else entirely. Mom shot to her feet, voice cutting like broken glass. Harold would never do that. He would never give it to her. Not over his own son. The lawyer calmly unfolded another envelope. Mrs. Whitmore, your husband left a personal note addressed to you. Would you like me to read it? I don't care what it says, she snapped, but the lawyer read it anyway. To Margaret. You've spent the better part of 30 years telling me which son deserved more. I let you. I thought I was avoiding conflict. But I saw how you treated Ryan after Elise left him. I saw how little you believed in him. I stayed quiet when you pushed Drew into the company, but I'm done staying quiet. This company will go to the person who reminds me most of the man I once wanted to be. You may not like it. That's your burden to carry now. The silence that followed was suffocating. Mom's mouth opened, but no words came out. Drew's hands were shaking. Elise looked small, like she wanted to melt into the floor. And then Drew snapped. You manipulated him, he shouted, pointing at me like a child cornered. This is some twisted game. You think you've won, huh? Because you married some rich woman and kissed up to Dad on his deathbed? I stood slowly. I didn't have to manipulate anyone, I said. I just showed up. He lunged forward, too fast. But Sabrina stepped in between us without a shred of hesitation. One word. Don't. She didn't have to raise her voice. That single syllable hit like a wall. Drew froze. And for the first time in my life, I saw it, fear. Not of me. Not even of her. But of everything he just lost. He turned toward Elise, searching for backup. But she wouldn't even meet his eyes. But the fallout didn't end there. As the room cleared out, the lawyer packing up his briefcase, Sabrina leaned in close to me. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't need to. He tried to contact me, she whispered. I went still. Last Friday. Through a mutual client. Said it was about a business proposal. I didn't tell you because I wanted to see what kind of move he was making first. I stared at the now half-empty room, Drew storming out toward the garage like a man looking for something to break, and felt my throat tighten. Even after everything he'd taken from me years ago, after Elise, after the funeral jab, after this explosion, he'd still tried to get his claws into what I'd built. And the worst part? It still hurt. I thought I was past it. I thought marrying Sabrina, building my own life, watching that smug smirk finally crumble would be enough. But buried somewhere deep, a part of me still ached for a brother who never really existed. For a mother who never saw me outside of Drew's shadow. Later that night, I found myself in my old childhood bedroom. Empty now. Stripped bare. The posters and trophies long gone, just beige walls and an old desk with a little carving on the corner, are plus something. Probably my 13-year-old self trying to mark a world I thought was permanent. Sabrina was outside on a call. I told her I needed a moment. That's when I saw it, a faded photo on the shelf. Me and Drew. High school. Shirtless at some lake trip, arms slung around each other, both grinning like idiots. He had that same cocky smile. And me. I still believed then. I hadn't learned yet how fast that kind of bond could be ripped away. I sank into the old creaky chair, elbows on my knees, hands over my face. All those years of clawing for respect, trying to be the better man, trying not to drown in bitterness. And now, here I was, sitting in the hollowed-out shell of a family that had never really valued me. A father who came around too late. A mother who chose her favorite. A brother who saw me as nothing but a rung on his ladder. I didn't cry. Not this time. But the emptiness? It was heavy. When Sabrina walked back in, she didn't say a word. She just placed her hand on my shoulder. Warm. Solid. Real. I reached up and threaded my fingers through hers. I don't want to fight them, I murmured. You don't have to, she said softly. But I can't keep letting them rewrite the story. I can't let Drew twist this into another chapter where I'm the villain who stole his life. She squeezed my hand. Then don't. Tell the truth. In your way. On your terms. Her words stuck with me. That night, I walked the halls of the estate, every corner holding echoes of a family I'd once believed in. Some memories warm, most tainted. But for the first time, I didn't feel like the shadow anymore. I felt like the man who finally stepped out of it. I found myself alone in Dad's study around 2 in the morning. The house was silent, the kind of silence that presses on your chest. A single lamp cast a pool of amber light across his old desk as I flipped through folders that smelled faintly like paper and dust. Dad was never much of a writer, but he kept everything. Ledger notes. Letters he never sent. Budget drafts with his messy pen scrawls in the margins. Even printed emails with our family lawyer. And then I saw it. A single line in the middle of an old email thread that made my breath catch in my throat. Ryan's not loud, but he's solid. I don't say it enough, but he's who I'd want in charge if it all came down. My hands froze on the page. I didn't know whether to feel proud or furious. Why had he never said that to my face? Why did it take paperwork and lawyers and death for him to finally put those words somewhere? But that sentence, it did something to me. It didn't spark rage. It didn't dig up old wounds. It lit a quiet, steady fire. Resolve. I closed the folder gently, pulled out my phone, and started typing. I wasn't sure of the full plan yet. But I knew one thing, I wasn't going to let Drew light everything Dad built on fire just because he couldn't stand being second. The next morning, the shift began. I asked Sabrina to help me make some moves. Calls were made. Meetings were set. I reviewed company bylaws, legal structures, and old contracts. Drew might have inherited Mom's unwavering confidence, but I'd inherited Dad's backbone. And if he wanted a war, he was about to realize I'd been building defenses all along, quietly, methodically. He wouldn't stop here. I knew that. But neither would I. 2 weeks later, Sabrina and I returned to our penthouse in Seattle. Floor-to-ceiling windows, open skies, the distant sound of waves, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, just steady. That first evening, I stood on the balcony, watching the sun melt into the water. For the first time in years, I felt certainty. Not about every step ahead, but about why I was taking them. Drew went radio silent for 10 days after the will reading. No texts. No calls. No passive-aggressive posts or woe is me theatrics online. And that told me everything I needed to know. He was panicking. Scrambling behind closed doors, calling anyone who might give him a lifeline. But this time, there were no shortcuts. No Mom whispering in Dad's ear. No Elise by his side. Meanwhile, I stepped into the role Dad had quietly carved out for me. At first, I wasn't even sure I'd keep the company. But Sabrina, with her sharp instincts, said something that stuck in my head like a pin. You don't have to wear your father's shoes. Just walk the path he paved, with your own stride. 2 weeks after the funeral, I walked into the boardroom of Whitmore Logistics. A long mahogany table. Suits. Measured stares. People who'd probably expected Drew, not me. The chairman looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You look just like your father when he was young." But I wasn't him. And I didn't want to be. "I'm not here to make promises I can't keep," I told them. "And I'm not here to ride on a last name. I want to build something that survives the next decade, not just the next quarter." There was a beat of silence. Then nods. One by one, their faces shifted from cautious to curious. By the end of that meeting, half of them were shaking my hand, the other half leaning in close to whisper how relieved they were Drew wouldn't be involved. Sabrina was right. Dad left the structure. But it was mine now, to shape, to protect, to lead. That same week, Sabrina was invited on a small business podcast. They talked about her latest acquisition, the trust, the company. Then the host asked about me. She didn't hesitate. Didn't laugh it off. She just smiled. "He's the most disciplined person I've ever met," she said. "He doesn't talk much, but when he moves, things shift." Hearing that, it hit me deeper than I expected. All those years of being the quiet one, the shadow, the second best, and here was someone who didn't just see me. She believed in me. And for the first time in a long time, I finally believed in myself, too. The next month passed like a storm, fast, relentless, and full of quiet victories. My calendar was a blur of meetings, strategy calls, and negotiations. One of my best decisions early on was hiring Natalie as our new CFO. Sharp as a blade, zero tolerance for fluff, and with an almost supernatural ability to spot inefficiencies before anyone else even knew they existed. She walked into that building like she owned the numbers. And by the end of her first week, she basically did. Sabrina, as always, stayed in her lane but added her insight where it mattered most. She never tried to overshadow me. She just elevated the whole game. Within 6 weeks, the numbers started to speak for themselves, revenue steadied, employee morale climbed, and we closed 2 contracts that Dad's team had been chasing for years. My inbox, which used to be an echo chamber, turned into a flood zone. Dinners. Conferences. Equity discussions. Invitations from people who used to forget my name. But through all of it, I kept my head down. Let Drew scream into the void if he wanted. I wasn't here to be loud. I was here to build. Then came the call. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Natalie and I were going through restructuring plans in my office when the phone buzzed. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something, a gut pull, made me pick up. "Hey." Her voice was soft. Hesitant. "Elise." There was a pause, one of those long, tangled silences where you're not sure if you're talking to someone from your past or a stranger who happens to sound like them. "I wasn't sure you'd pick up," she said. "But I wanted to say congratulations." I waited. She sighed. "You know, Drew's been difficult. He's taking it hard. He keeps saying you manipulated your dad somehow. Or that Sabrina made you do it." "Did she?" "No," I said simply. She let out a quiet breath. "Yeah. I know. He just can't accept that you actually came out ahead. That you built something without playing dirty. It doesn't fit his version of the story." That line stuck like a nail in wood. His version of the story. Because that's what it always was with Drew. He wasn't just living his life, he was writing himself as the hero in a script that never changed, no matter how much wreckage he left behind. Elise hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" I didn't answer, but she took the silence as permission. "Are you happy?" I thought about Sabrina curled up on the couch at night, humming softly while she worked. About the early mornings with good coffee and easy glances across the kitchen. About the weight of respect I'd earned, not demanded, not borrowed, but built. Yes, I said. I am. She didn't argue. Just whispered, I'm sorry. I know, I replied quietly. But that chapter's closed. The line went dead. I looked up to see Sabrina in the doorway, holding 2 coffees. She didn't ask about the call, she didn't need to. She just raised a brow and handed me the cup. I took it, feeling the warmth against my palm. Life had shifted. Calm. Solid. But I knew Drew. Calm never lasted with him. The first crack came the next morning. A single envelope on my desk. No return address. No note. Just my name, scrawled in a rushed, angry hand. I opened it as a drizzle tapped softly against the office window. Inside, photocopied emails, legal filings, a printed text conversation. My pulse slowed, then started to climb. Drew had been trying to sell confidential Whitmore Logistics client data to one of our competitors. It hadn't gone through, but the evidence was clear. Contract details, vendor weaknesses, internal metrics, he'd offered it all like a man pawning off stolen jewelry. And he wasn't even smart about it. He'd contacted some old acquaintance, someone he used to brag about beating in debate club. That guy now worked for a rival firm. But apparently, unlike Drew, he had a conscience. He sent everything anonymously, washing his hands of the mess but making sure I saw it. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling as the weight of it sank in. Drew hadn't accepted the loss. He wasn't trying to build his own empire. He just wanted to burn mine down. For days, I told no one. Not Sabrina. Not Natalie. Not the board. I went quiet, methodical. I traced his communication trails, used my old cybersecurity skills to check if anything else had leaked. That's when I found it. He still had credentials that should have been revoked after Dad passed. Someone in IT had missed it. I fixed the hole silently. No confrontation. Just preparation. Because Drew was going to play dirty. And I was going to be 10 steps ahead. A week later, I was in New York for a logistics tech conference. Sabrina was speaking on a panel, poised and sharp as always. But I was there for another reason. I met with a small, hungry startup I'd been quietly watching for over a year. They specialized in digital inventory automation, something Dad never quite understood. But I did. The old ways were dying. If we wanted to not just survive but dominate, we needed to evolve. I made them an offer. Not loud. Not flashy. But strong enough to turn heads. If this deal went through, Whitmore Logistics wouldn't just be standing on the same old foundation anymore. We'd be building something entirely new, something no one, especially Drew, could ever take credit for. Or take away. The deal came with one condition, a full internal audit before signing, standard due diligence. But for me, it was more than just a box to check. An audit meant every access log, every hidden folder, every shadowed corner of the company dragged into the light. It meant every fingerprint Drew left behind over the years was about to be illuminated. The morning after I got the notice, I called Natalie into my office. She stepped in, coffee in hand, eyes alert. I want a top-down systems audit, I told her. She raised an eyebrow. For the acquisition? That's part of it, I said. But I also want to know exactly who still has legacy access to sensitive systems. Her gaze sharpened slightly. You think someone's poking around? Not yet, I replied. But I want to be ready when they do. She didn't press further. She trusted me now. And that trust meant I didn't have to explain that I wasn't just trying to catch Drew. I was about to end his backdoor games for good. Later that afternoon, Sabrina walked into my office with a look I hadn't seen in weeks, a quiet, dangerous kind of smile. We found the missing link, she said, setting a thick binder down on my desk. Inside were scanned property documents from one of Dad's old investments. Land he'd bought years ago and shelved, calling it too risky. But Sabrina had gone digging, ordering a quiet zoning check. And it turned out, the zoning laws had shifted. That dusty old property? It was now prime commercial land downtown, a gold mine waiting to be tapped. At the bottom of the binder was something else. A contract between Dad and Drew's failed startup. It was never executed. Dad had buried it, probably because he never trusted Drew to handle it. Now it was mine. It's shovel-ready, Sabrina said, her voice smooth. If you run this through Whitmore, you could double the company's valuation in a year. I sat back in my chair, the weight of it all sinking in. This was everything Drew thought was his by default: leverage, power, legacy. He'd tried to humiliate me at a funeral, undermine me at every turn, claw at my foundation like a desperate animal. But he didn't see what was happening now. Because what I held wasn't just money. It was power. Proof. Position. And most dangerous of all, indifference. I wasn't going to scream, or rage, or seek revenge. I was going to move the board while he was still staring at the pieces. The audit team worked fast. Natalie and her people turned over their findings early, Thursday morning. I sat at my desk, the gray Seattle light bleeding through the window, and read the report 3 times over. The trail Drew left behind was undeniable. Unauthorized logins tied to his old credentials. Suspicious access from a private IP. Downloads of confidential bid information just days before one of our biggest contracts had mysteriously slipped away. A $4 million loss. The board didn't know it yet. But they would. And when they did, it wouldn't just be the end of Drew's backdoor sabotage. It would be the moment he finally realized the empire he thought he could inherit was never his to begin with. I called the special executive meeting for Monday morning. No more shadows. No more back channels. This was the endgame. Sabrina would be there. So would Natalie, the compliance officer, the company attorney, and every member of the board. And because protocol required all major shareholders with past managerial ties, Drew got his invitation too. I wanted him in that room. He arrived 5 minutes late, naturally, wearing a suit that was just a little too tight and a smirk that was way too confident. He strolled in like this was going to be some casual, family talk where he'd charm, manipulate, and walk out clean. Elise wasn't with him. I didn't need to ask why. Didn't think you'd miss the chance to look important, Drew said, sliding into the leather chair near the end of the table. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. I just gave a single nod to the attorney at the head of the room. The attorney cleared his throat. Behind him, the big screen flickered to life, displaying a single slide. Security breach findings, summary report. The room fell silent. As the attorney began to speak, the evidence unfolded like a blade being drawn inch by inch. Timestamped access logs. Private IP traces. A timeline matched against lost contracts. Every click Drew thought he'd hidden was now projected in crystal clarity. I watched the board's faces morph, first confusion, then disbelief, then anger. Drew didn't blink at first. He sat there, jaw set, shoulders squared. But the second the screenshots of his emails hit the screen, his emails offering our internal bid numbers to a rival firm, his jaw twitched. This is absurd, he finally snapped. You really think I'd risk everything over that? The attorney stayed steady. You didn't just risk it, Mr. Whitmore. You executed it. We have digital verification, full timestamp trails, and records of downloads using your legacy credentials. He glanced at me briefly. Mr. Ryan Whitmore has already filed for a retroactive internal injunction. Given the evidence, we're preparing to notify state authorities. Drew laughed then, a weak, brittle sound. This is a setup. Natalie leaned forward. You're the only person who still had access through a blind credential link your father left. We found it. You used it. Sabrina's voice followed, calm and cutting like a scalpel. And you thought you could sell off his company piece by piece while smiling at his funeral. You've never known how to build anything, Drew. Only how to leech off it. His face went crimson. This is insane. You're just trying to wipe me out of the family completely. I finally spoke then. Not loud. Not angry. Just steady. No, Drew. You did that to yourself. I'm just making it official. I slid a document across the table. The paper landed with a quiet finality. A cease and desist order, legally barring Drew from every Whitmore-owned property, system, and channel. Attached was a referral to the state business regulator for corporate espionage and data theft. It wouldn't land him behind bars, but it would put a permanent scarlet letter on his record. Every due diligence process for the rest of his life would pull up this moment. He stared at the paper. Then at me. You think you're the better man now? He spat. No, I said. I'm just not the fool anymore. He shoved back his chair, shoulders heaving. This isn't over. You think this is the end? You're still the same silent little ghost living in my shadow. No matter what you do. I cut in, softly but sharp. Then maybe it's time you stop walking in front of the sun. He blinked, just for a second, and I knew I'd landed the blow he didn't see coming. The board voted unanimously to sever all future association with Drew Whitmore. Dad had added a clause in his final update, a safeguard against misconduct. And Drew's little stunt checked every box. His remaining shares were forfeited by unanimous vote. By noon, every one of his access credentials was revoked. By nightfall, the press got wind of it. Whitmore Logistics takes decisive action after internal breach. I didn't give a statement. Sabrina released a single line to the press. We protect what we build. I later heard Drew tried to schedule a meeting with one of our competitors. They didn't even entertain it. Because the bridges he thought he could buy? They belong to me now. I end the days that followed, I didn't celebrate. There was no champagne, no speeches, no victory laps. I just worked. The deal with the startup went through. Contract signed, sealed, done. Within a week, our market value jumped. Sabrina, ever the tactician, secured an investment partnership with a European firm, expanding our reach into 3 new countries almost overnight. My days blurred into strategy meetings, site visits, tech integration calls. No noise. No drama. Just forward momentum. But the moment that truly settled the revenge into something colder, quieter, came in a small, unmarked envelope. Actually, no envelope at all. Just a lined sheet of paper. 5 words, scrawled in Drew's jagged handwriting. You got what you wanted. I hope it was worth it. D. I folded it once. Tucked it into the back of my desk drawer. Never answered. Because I didn't need to. He was still trying to drag me down into the mud where he lived. But I was already building something far above his reach. And deep down, he knew it. The fallout hit him fast. 1 week after the board meeting, Drew's name was quietly added to multiple industry blacklists. Every startup circle he'd once charmed his way into slammed their doors. I didn't make a single phone call. I didn't need to. The evidence we'd uncovered spoke louder than I ever could. His LinkedIn went dark. Elise moved out of their shared place, no fight, no announcement. I only found out because Sabrina received an automated change of address alert from one of the joint accounts Drew had once tried to siphon through. She went to stay with her sister. I wasn't surprised. A month later, Mom called. I just stared at the screen as it rang. Once. Twice. I didn't pick up. The next day, she left a message. Ryan, I don't even know what to say. He's devastated. You didn't have to destroy him like that. He's your brother. No apology. No acknowledgement of what he'd done. Just more excuses. Always for him. I deleted the voicemail. No hesitation. 3 months passed. Whitmore Logistics wasn't just steady, it was thriving. The acquisition had closed. The new digital logistics platform we rolled out under Sabrina's guidance cut processing times by 37%. Our valuation doubled. Then Forbes ran a profile. The silent son who rebuilt an empire. I didn't care about the title, but the truth buried underneath it? That mattered. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't Drew's brother. I was the man who rebuilt what they tried to break. Drew tried to start over. Moved 2 states away. Started a consulting firm under a new name. But word travels fast in this industry. No one wanted to work with a man branded with corporate theft and a reputation for burning every bridge he crossed. A client sent me a photo months later, Drew in some co-working space, hunched over a laptop, wearing the same cheap jacket he'd worn at Dad's funeral. Same bitter scowl, too. He wasn't rebuilding. He was barely treading water. Mom eventually stopped calling. I think she finally understood what she'd lost, not just Drew's shiny image, but me. The version of me who used to accept scraps, who'd show up to Sunday dinners pretending not to see where the love went. That man was gone. And Elise? I saw her once at a conference. She was standing near a coffee booth, alone, that distant look in her eyes. She didn't speak. Neither did I. But in that quiet, the sadness on her face said everything. She hadn't just lost me. She'd traded me. And the cost had finally come due. That night, back home in Seattle, I stood on the balcony with Sabrina. The city stretched out beneath us in a wash of lights and low, steady rain. You know, she said softly, you never once raised your voice through all of this. Didn't need to, I replied. She smiled, leaning her head against my shoulder. You didn't just win, Ryan. You outgrew them. She was right. For the first time in my life, I wasn't standing in someone's shadow. I was standing on ground I'd built myself, brick by brick, scar by scar, on the ashes of what they'd tried to take from me. Some men fight for power. I just learned how to become it.